The fluorescent lights of Hanwoo Corporation's 35th floor cast harsh shadows across the marble reception desk. 26-year-old CEO Minji clutched her worn leather portfolio, trying to steady her trembling hands. The receptionist's perfectly manicured nails clicked against the keyboard as she typed without looking up. "You're here for the marketing assistant position?" the woman asked, her tone suggesting Minji had already failed some invisible test. "Yes, I have a 10 o'clock appointment. Take a seat. Someone will call you." Minji settled into one of the pristine white chairs that looked more decorative than functional. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Seoul stretched out beneath her, a sprawling maze of steel and ambition. 6 months ago, she'd been working at a small advertising firm in Busan, content with her modest life. Then her father's medical bills had started arriving, each one more devastating than the last. Stage 3 lung cancer didn't care about modest dreams. CEO Minji. A woman in a sharp gray suit appeared, clipboard in hand. "Follow me, please." They walked through a maze of glass-walled offices where employees moved with purpose, their faces masks of concentration. Minji caught glimpses of brainstorming sessions, urgent phone calls, the controlled chaos of corporate ambition. They stopped at a conference room where 5 people sat behind a long table, their expressions ranging from bored to actively hostile. "Ms. CEO," the woman in the middle began, glancing at a resume. "You have a degree in communications from Busan National University. You've worked at 3 different agencies in the past 4 years. Why should Hanwoo Corporation take a chance on someone with such an inconsistent employment history?" Minji had prepared for this question. "I learned something valuable at each position. At my first job, I discovered I had a talent for understanding consumer psychology. At my second, I developed strong analytical skills. At my third, I learned how to turn data into compelling narratives. I may not have stayed long at each place, but I took something important from every experience." "And what makes you think you won't leave us in 6 months?" another interviewer asked, skepticism dripping from every word. Before Minji could answer, the conference room door opened. Every head turned. A man entered, tall and commanding in a navy suit that probably cost more than Minji's monthly rent. His dark hair was styled perfectly, his features sharp and aristocratic. But it was his eyes that caught her attention, dark and assessing, missing nothing. "Director Kang," the lead interviewer said, standing quickly. The others followed suit. "We weren't expecting you." "Continue," he said, his voice low and authoritative. He took a seat at the end of the table, those penetrating eyes now fixed on Minji. "Don't let me interrupt." The interview continued, but Minji couldn't shake the feeling of being studied, examined under a microscope. She answered questions about campaign strategies, social media trends, brand positioning. Director Kang said nothing, just watched with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "Thank you, Ms. CEO," the lead interviewer finally said. "We'll be in touch." As Minji gathered her portfolio, Director Kang spoke for the first time. "What would you do if you had to rebrand a company with a damaged reputation?" Everyone in the room tensed. Minji turned to face him fully. "I'd start by acknowledging the damage honestly," she said. "People respect transparency. Then I'd identify what the company does well, what values it truly holds, and build a campaign around authentic change, not just pretty words. You can't rebrand without reform." Something flickered in his eyes. Might have been interest. Might have been annoyance. "Naive," he said, but not entirely stupid. The interview ended shortly after. As Minji rode the elevator down, her phone buzzed. An email from Hanwoo Corporation's HR department. "Congratulations! You've been selected for a 3-month probationary period as marketing assistant. Report Monday at 8 a.m. She'd done it. She'd actually done it. What Minji didn't know was that director Kang Junho, second son of Hanwoo Corporation's founder, had made the hiring decision himself. And he never did anything without a very specific reason. Monday morning arrived with rain, the kind of heavy downpour that Seoul seemed to specialize in. Minji arrived at 7:45, drenched despite her umbrella, her carefully ironed blouse clinging uncomfortably to her skin. The lobby was already bustling with employees moving with practiced efficiency, all of them somehow managing to look put together despite the weather. "New hire?" someone asked. Minji turned to find a woman about her age, bright-eyed with a friendly smile. "I'm Park Yoonji. I work in accounting, but I volunteered to show you around. Come on, let's get you sorted before you have to meet the dragon." "The dragon?" "Director Kang. That's what we call him. Brilliant, ruthless, and he breathes fire on anyone who disappoints him. But don't worry, if you keep your head down and work hard, you'll be fine." The marketing department occupied the 28th floor, an open-plan space with sleek desks and motivational posters that somehow felt threatening rather than inspiring. Yoonji introduced Minji to her immediate supervisor, team leader Nam, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and an air of exhaustion. "Welcome to the team," team leader Nam said. "Your first assignment is to review these client files and prepare summary reports. I need them by end of day." Minji looked at the stack of folders, easily 50 or more. "All of them? Is that a problem?" "No, ma'am." She worked through lunch, fingers flying across her keyboard, eyes burning from screen glare. Around her, co-workers whispered and speculated. The new girl. Another one who wouldn't last. The dragon would eat her alive. But Minji had survived worse than office gossip. She'd survived watching her father cough up blood, survived the silence that followed her mother's death 5 years ago, survived the loneliness of being truly, utterly alone in the world. At 6 p.m., team leader Nam appeared at her desk. "Let's see what you've got." Minji handed over the reports, her stomach tight with anxiety. Team leader Nam flipped through them, her expression unreadable. Then she looked up, something like surprise in her eyes. "These are good. Very thorough. How did you finish so fast?" "I used a template system to streamline the formatting, which let me focus on analysis rather than presentation. And I cross-referenced the data to identify patterns, which helped speed up the summary process." "Impressive." Team leader Nam almost smiled. "Director Kang wants to see you in his office. 32nd floor." Minji's heart dropped. "Why?" "He reviews all new hires personally. Don't keep him waiting." The 30th floor was quieter, more exclusive. Minji found Director Kang's office at the end of a long hallway, floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of Seoul's glittering skyline. She knocked, heard a curt enter, and stepped inside. Kang Junho sat behind an enormous desk, his attention focused on a document. He didn't look up. "Sir, you wanted to see me. Sit." He continued reading for a long moment, making her wait. Finally, he set down the paper and fixed her with that same assessing stare. "Your reports. Team leader Nam says you completed 50 client summaries in one day." "Yes, sir." "And you worked through lunch." "Yes, sir." "Why?" The question caught her off guard. "Because it was my assignment." Most new hires would have complained, made excuses, asked for an extension. He leaned back in his chair. "Why didn't you?" "Because I need this job." The words came out before she could stop them, too honest, too raw. "Everyone needs their job, Ms. Seo." "That's not an answer." "I mean, I really need it. My father is sick. Stage 3 lung cancer. His treatment costs more than I can possibly afford, but I'm all he has. So I can't afford to fail here. I can't afford to be mediocre. I have to be better than everyone else because I don't have the luxury of second chances." The silence that followed felt heavy, charged. Kang Junho's expression remained unreadable. "Your honesty is refreshing," he said finally. "Or stupid. I haven't decided which." He pulled a folder from his drawer. I have a special project. High-stakes client, demanding timeline, significant visibility. If you succeed, it could fast-track your career here. If you fail, you're finished. What's the project? JH Electronics wants to rebrand their smartphone line. They've been losing market share to younger, more innovative competitors. I told them we could turn their image around in 3 months. You'll be working directly with me on this. Minji's pulse quickened. With you. But I just started. Which means you're not yet corrupted by the way things have always been done. You might actually have a fresh perspective. He slid the folder across the desk. Read this tonight. We start tomorrow at 7 a.m. Don't be late. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. As she turned to leave, his voice stopped her. Ms. Seo. One more thing. I don't tolerate failure, but I also don't tolerate dishonesty. If you're in over your head, tell me. If you need help, ask. But don't lie to me about your capabilities and then crash a project. Understood. Understood. That night, Minji sat in her tiny studio apartment, the JH Electronics folder spread across her bed. Her father called at 9 as he did every night. His voice weak but trying to sound cheerful. How was your first day, sweetheart? Good, Dad. Really good. I got assigned to a major project already. That's my girl. I'm so proud of you. He coughed, a wet, rattling sound that made her heart clench. Don't work too hard, okay? Your health matters too. I'm fine, Dad. You focus on getting better. The doctor said the new treatment is showing promise. The doctor is very optimistic, yes. Another cough. Minji, about the bills. Don't worry about that. I've got it covered. She didn't have it covered. Not even close. But she'd figure it out. She always did. After hanging up, Minji returned to the folder. Inside were market analyses, focus group reports, competitor strategies. JH Electronics had been a powerhouse 20 years ago, but they'd failed to adapt, failed to understand that consumers no longer wanted just functionality. They wanted identity. They wanted to feel something when they held that phone, snapped that photo, scrolled through their feeds. An idea began to form. Risky. Unconventional. Probably exactly what they needed. At 6:45 the next morning, Minji arrived at Director Kang's office. He was already there, of course, looking as crisp and alert as if he'd slept 12 hours instead of probably 4. You're early, he noted. You said 7. I wanted to be prepared. Show me what you've got. Minji pulled out her laptop, connected it to the conference screen in his office, and launched her presentation. She'd worked until 3 a.m., fueled by instant coffee and desperation. JH Electronics' problem isn't their technology, she began. It's their story. Or rather, their lack of one. They're trying to compete on specs and features, but their competitors have those too. What they don't have is emotional resonance. She clicked to the next slide, showing a series of competitor ads. Young people laughing, capturing memories, living their best lives. Everyone else is selling aspiration. JH is selling circuit boards. We need to reframe their brand around connection, around the moments that matter. Not here's our camera's megapixels, but here's the memory you'll never forget. Kang Junho watched, his face giving nothing away. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. It's sentimental, he said finally. Her heart sank. Yes, sir. And you think sentimentality sells smartphones? I think humans are sentimental creatures. We don't buy products. We buy feelings. He stood walking to the window. JH's CEO is old school. He'll hate this approach. Then we need to show him it works. He turned back to her, and for the first time, she saw something that might have been approval in his eyes. We'll test it. Small focus group, controlled environment. If the data supports your theory, we move forward. If not, back to the drawing board. Fair. Fair. Good. We present to JH in 6 weeks. That's not a lot of time. I'll make it work. I'm counting on it, Ms. Seo. The next month and a half passed in a blur of 18-hour days, endless revisions, and more coffee than any human should reasonably consume. Minji worked closer with director Kang than she'd ever worked with anyone, and she began to see beneath his icy exterior. He was demanding, yes, but he was also brilliant, detail-oriented, and surprisingly supportive when she brought him ideas. "What about this angle?" she'd ask, showing him yet another concept board. "The visual is strong but the copy is weak. Try again. This. Better. But what's the call to action? What do you want people to feel when they see this? Connected. Like they're part of something bigger. Then make them feel that. Show, don't tell." Sometimes they worked so late that Minji would fall asleep at the conference table, only to wake up with Juno's suit jacket draped over her shoulders like a blanket. He never mentioned it, and she never thanked him, but something unspoken began to grow between them, something neither was willing to acknowledge. The focus group results came back overwhelmingly positive. Participants responded to the emotional messaging, describing the campaign as authentic and relatable. Even the older demographics, JH's traditional customer base, showed interest. "You were right," Juno said, reviewing the data. For the first time since Minji had met him, he smiled, a real smile that transformed his entire face. This might actually work. "We make a good team," Minji said, then immediately regretted the familiarity. But Juno didn't seem to mind. "Yes," he said softly. "We do." The presentation to JH Electronics CEO was scheduled for a Wednesday morning. Minji arrived at the office at dawn, running through her notes one last time. But when she walked into the conference room, her blood ran cold. Sitting next to JH's CEO was Lee Miho, her ex-boyfriend from university, the one who'd dumped her via text message the day before her final exams. He was wearing an expensive suit now, his hair styled. His smile the same charming smirk that had once made her heart flutter. Now it just made her nauseous. "Miho," she said, unable to hide her shock. "Minji. Wow, small world." He stood, extending his hand as if they were strangers meeting for the first time. "I'm the marketing director at JH now. I'll be overseeing this project." Juno's eyes narrowed. "You two know each other." "We went to university together," Miho said smoothly. "Ancient history." The meeting was a disaster. Miho questioned every aspect of their campaign, from the color palette to the slogan choice. He suggested alternatives that were generic and safe, exactly the kind of approach that had gotten JH into this mess in the first place. "This emotional angle is risky," Miho argued. "Our consumers want reliability, not feelings. Your consumers want to feel something when they buy your product," Minji countered. "The data supports this approach. Data can be interpreted many ways. I think you're projecting your own desires onto the target demographic. And I think you're afraid to take a risk." Juno intervened before the argument could escalate. "Gentlemen, Ms. Seo, let's take a break. We'll reconvene in 15 minutes. In the hallway, Juno pulled Minji aside. "What's going on with you and Lee Miho?" "Nothing. He's an ex. It's been over for 5 years. He's undermining you in there." "Why?" "Because that's what he does. He's petty and vindictive and he never forgave me for moving on." "Did you move on?" The question hung in the air between them. Before Minji could answer, her phone rang. The hospital. Her father. "I have to take this," she said, stepping away. The doctor's voice was calm but urgent. "Ms. Seo, your father's condition has deteriorated. We need to start the next phase of treatment immediately, but I need to be honest with you about the costs." The number he quoted made Minji's knees weak. Double what she'd expected. triple what she could possibly afford. How soon? She whispered. Within the week. I'm sorry, but we can't wait longer. When Minji returned to the conference room, her hands were shaking. She delivered the rest of the presentation on autopilot, barely hearing the continued back and forth between Junho and Miho. At the end, JH's CEO agreed to think about their proposal and deliver a decision within the week. You did well, Junho said as they packed up their materials. I almost blew it. But you didn't. That's what matters. He paused. Are you okay? You seem distracted. I'm fine. Ms. CEO, what did we agree about honesty? She looked at him, this man who was technically her boss but who felt like something more, something undefined and terrifying. My father needs treatment. And I don't have the money. Junho's expression softened. How much do you need? I can't ask you for money, sir. You're not asking. I'm offering. He pulled out his phone. How much? 70 million won. He didn't even blink. Done. I'll transfer it this afternoon. Director Kang, I can't accept that. It's not a gift. It's a loan. You'll pay me back when you can. And Minji, he said her name gently, intimately. Everyone needs help sometimes. Let me help you. Tears burned her eyes. Why are you doing this? Because you're brilliant and dedicated, and you deserve better than to watch your father suffer because of money. He stepped closer. And because I care about you. More than I should, probably. The confession hung between them, fragile and electric. Before Minji could respond, Yoonji burst into the conference room. Oh good, you're both still here. We have a problem. Someone leaked our JH campaign to the press. It's all over social media. What? Junho grabbed his phone, scrolling through the notifications flooding his screen. Sure enough, their entire campaign, from concept to execution, was being discussed, analyzed, and debated across multiple platforms. Who would do this? Minji asked. But she already knew. And judging by Junho's expression, so did he. Lee Miho, Junho said quietly. He wanted to sabotage us. But why? What does he gain? If the campaign goes public before JH approves it, they can't use it without looking like they're following public opinion rather than leading it. And if they don't use it, we lose the client and Miho can swoop in with his safe, boring alternative. Minji felt sick. This is my fault. I should have warned you about him. No, this is on me. I should have vetted him more carefully. Junho was already dialing. I need damage control now. Give me PR, legal, and our media team. We're going to turn this leak into an advantage. The next 72 hours were the most intense of Minji's life. Instead of hiding from the leaked campaign, they leaned into it, engaging directly with the public conversation. Junho arranged interviews, social media Q&As, behind-the-scenes content. They transformed what should have been a disaster into a grassroots movement, with consumers demanding that JH Electronics adopt the emotional, human-centered approach. When JH's CEO called on Thursday morning, he was laughing. You clever bastards, he said to Junho. I don't know if that leak was strategy or disaster, but you've made it impossible for me to say no. My inbox is flooded with people wanting our new campaign. Let's make this official. Minji collapsed into her chair when the call ended, relief washing over her like a wave. We did it, she whispered. No, Junho corrected, pulling her up and into an unexpected hug. You did it. This was your vision. She fit perfectly against him. His heartbeat steady beneath her ear. For a moment, she let herself imagine what it might be like if they weren't boss and employee, if there weren't 1,000 complications standing between them. Director Kang, she said softly. Junho. When we're alone, call me Junho. She pulled back to look at him. This can't happen. You're my boss. The power dynamic is all wrong. I know. And if you want me to keep my distance, I will. But Minji, I need you to know. What I feel for you, it's not about work or power or any of that. It's about you. The way you think, the way you fight, the way you care so deeply about everything you do. I feel it too, she admitted. But that doesn't make it right. No, he agreed. But it makes it real. Before either could say more, team leader Nam knocked on the door. Sorry to interrupt, but Minji, you have a visitor. He says it's urgent. Minji found Miho waiting in the lobby, looking considerably less confident than he had at the JH meeting. I'm not here to apologize, he said immediately. I know you won't believe me anyway. Then why are you here? To warn you. Director Kang isn't who you think he is. His family, the Kangs, they're not just wealthy. They're dangerous. His father built that empire on the backs of people who trusted him, then destroyed them when they were no longer useful. Get to the point. Junho is exactly like his father. He's using you, Minji. This special attention, this project, all of it. It's not because he sees your potential. It's because you're useful. And when you stop being useful, he'll discard you just like his father discarded everyone else. You're jealous, Minji said. That's all this is. Maybe. But I'm also right. He pulled out his phone, showing her an article from 5 years ago. Read about what happened to Kang's last protégé. A woman named Jung Seoyeon. He promoted her fast, gave her big projects, made her think she was special. Then when she made one mistake, he destroyed her career so thoroughly she left the country. Minji's hands went cold as she read the article. Jung Seoyeon's story was eerily similar to her own. The rapid promotion, the special treatment, the trust that had been built and then shattered. He's playing you, Miho said. And when the game is over, you'll be the one who loses. That night, Minji couldn't sleep. She researched Jung Seoyeon, found interviews, articles, social media posts. The woman had been brilliant, ambitious, and ultimately broken by whatever had happened at Hanwoo Corporation. The details were vague, but the outcome was clear. She'd left Korea and never returned. At 3 a.m., Minji made a decision. She would keep her distance from Junho. She would do her job excellently, pay back his loan as quickly as possible, and not let herself fall any further into whatever this was between them. But when she arrived at work the next morning, Junho was waiting at her desk with coffee and pastries. You look tired, he observed. Couldn't sleep. The campaign launch is stressful. I understand. He set down the coffee. But you should know I'm taking you off the JH project for the next phase. Her heart dropped. What? Why? Because you've been working yourself to death, and I need you fresh for what's coming next. There's a pharmaceutical company looking to rebrand. Huge budget, global scale. I want you to lead it. Lead it. Not assist. You've proven you can handle more than that. Consider it a promotion. She should have been thrilled. This was exactly the opportunity she'd needed. But all she could think about was Miho's warning, Jung Seoyeon's story, the pattern that seemed to be repeating itself. Can I ask you something? She said carefully. Of course. What happened to Jung Seoyeon? Junho's expression closed off immediately, his eyes going cold in a way that reminded Minji why people called him the dragon. Who told you about Seoyeon? Does it matter? She was talented. But she made a critical error that cost us a major client and damaged the company's reputation. I had to let her go. That's all. You just fired her. What else was I supposed to do? Keep her on after she'd proven herself unreliable. His voice was clipped, controlled. Minji, in business, there are consequences for failure. That's not cruelty. That's reality. And is that what will happen to me if I mess up? You'll just discard me. Where is this coming from? I need to know if I'm just another project to you. Another Jung Seoyeon. Junho stood, his jaw tight. If that's what you think of me, then maybe you don't know me at all. He walked out, leaving Minji alone with her coffee and her doubts. The pharmaceutical campaign consumed the next month. Minji threw herself into work, keeping interactions with Junho strictly professional. He seemed to do the same, their easy rapport replaced by formal exchanges about deadlines and deliverables. The office noticed the change, whispers circulating about what might have caused the rift between the dragon and his favorite. Yoonji cornered Minji in the break room one afternoon. "What happened between you and Director Kang?" "Nothing happened. Please." The temperature drops 10 degrees whenever you two are in the same room. "Everyone's noticed. We're just focused on work. You're focused on avoiding each other." Yoonji poured coffee, studying Minji carefully. "Can I give you some advice? As a friend. Do I have a choice? Director Kang isn't like his father. I know the stories, I've heard the rumors. But I've also worked here for 5 years, and I've seen how he treats people. He's tough, yes, but he's fair. And the way he looks at you, it's different from how he's looked at anyone else. You don't understand. Then help me understand." Minji sighed. "I can't afford to be wrong about him. My father's treatment, my career, everything depends on me making the right choices. And if I let myself trust Junho, if I let myself feel what I'm feeling, and it turns out Miho was right, I'll lose everything. So you're choosing to be alone because you're afraid. I'm choosing to be smart. Those aren't the same thing, Minji." That weekend, Minji visited her father in the hospital. The treatment was working. He looked better, stronger, his eyes bright with hope. "The doctor says I might be able to go home next month," he told her excitedly. "Can you believe it? I'll finally get to see your apartment, cook dinner in your kitchen, meet your friends. That would be wonderful, Dad. And maybe I'll get to meet this boss of yours you're always talking about." "I don't always talk about him. Sweetheart, you mention Director Kang in every conversation. His opinions, his insights, his expectations. He's clearly important to you. He's my boss. Of course he's important." Her father smiled, the same knowing smile he'd given her since childhood. "Your mother used to talk about me that way before we started dating. My colleague Lee Junho said this. Lee Junho thinks that. It drove her friends crazy because she wouldn't admit she liked me. Dad, this is completely different." "Is it?" He squeezed her hand. "Minji, you've spent the last 5 years taking care of me, sacrificing everything for my treatment. But you deserve happiness too. You deserve to let someone take care of you for once. I'm fine on my own. No one is fine on their own. We all need people. And from what you've told me, this Director Kang has been there for you when you needed him. Maybe it's time you let yourself trust that." On Monday, Minji found a note on her desk. Junho's handwriting, elegant and precise. "My office. When you have a moment." She went immediately, knocking softly before entering. Junho was standing by the window, his back to her, hands in his pockets. "You wanted to see me. I owe you an apology," he said without turning around. "I've been cold with you these past weeks. Professional, yes, but also distant. And that wasn't fair. You don't need to apologize for maintaining appropriate boundaries. That's not why I've been distant." He finally turned to face her. "I was hurt. When you compared yourself to Seoyeon, when you suggested I'd use you and discard you, it felt like you'd taken everything we'd built and dismissed it as manipulation. I was scared. I know. And that's why I'm apologizing. Because I should have understood that fear instead of taking it personally." He moved closer. "Can I tell you the full story about Jung Seoyeon? If you want to. She was brilliant, just like people say. And yes, I promoted her quickly because I saw her potential. But Seoyeon had a problem. She couldn't ask for help. She took on more than she could handle, and when she started to struggle, she hid it. She falsified reports, lied to clients, did everything she could to maintain the illusion that she was succeeding. That's not what the articles said. The articles protected her privacy. But the truth is, by the time I discovered what was happening, she'd put the entire company at risk. I didn't want to fire her. I wanted to help her. But she refused. She quit before I could even suggest alternatives, left the country, cut off all contact. And yes, it destroyed her career. But that destruction was her choice, not mine. Minji processed this new information. Why didn't you defend yourself when I accused you? Because I knew you weren't really asking about Seoyeon. You were asking if I'd hurt you the same way. And I couldn't promise I wouldn't. Not because I want to, but because relationships, whether professional or personal, involve risk. We can hurt each other, disappoint each other, even when we're trying our best not to. So what do? We decide if the risk is worth it. He closed the remaining distance between them. Minji, I'm not asking you to trust me blindly. I'm asking you to trust yourself. Trust your judgment, trust what you've observed, trust what you feel. What I feel is terrifying. Good. If it wasn't terrifying, it wouldn't be real. She laughed despite herself. That's your idea of reassurance. I'm better at business strategy than emotional support. He smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his entire face. But I'm learning. You make me want to learn. Junho, she said, using his given name deliberately. If we do this, if we try, there have to be rules. Clear boundaries between work and personal. No special treatment in the office. And if it doesn't work out, we handle it professionally. Agreed. I'm serious. No favoritism. No using our relationship to influence decisions. I wouldn't dream of it. He reached for her hand. Minji, I've never felt this way about anyone. I've spent my entire life believing that emotions were a weakness, that caring about someone was a vulnerability to be avoided. But with you, I don't want to avoid it. I want to embrace it, even if it's terrifying. She let him take her hand, let herself feel the warmth of his touch, the steadiness of his presence. Okay, she said softly. Let's try. The next few months were the happiest of Minji's life. She and Junho maintained their professional boundaries at work, but outside the office, they built something real and solid. He met her father, who liked him immediately despite Minji's warnings about his coldness. Junho took her to his favorite restaurants, showed her parts of Seoul she'd never explored, and slowly, carefully, let her see past the dragon mask to the man beneath. The pharmaceutical campaign launched to critical acclaim. Minji's team executed flawlessly, and the client was so impressed they signed a long-term contract with Hanwoo Corporation. Minji was promoted to senior marketing strategist, a position that came with a substantial raise and her own office. I told you that you could lead, Junho said when she got the news. This doesn't feel real sometimes, Minji admitted. 6 months ago, I was scrambling for rent money. Now I have a career, my father's in remission, and I'm dating the man I thought I hated when I first met him. You hated me. You were terrifying. And now you're still terrifying, but in a way I find oddly attractive. He laughed, pulling her close. They were in his apartment, a stunning penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows and minimalist decor that somehow felt warm when she was there with him. I love you, he said suddenly, seriously. I know we agreed to take things slow, but I need you to know. Whatever happens, however this evolves, I love you. Minji's heart swelled. I love you too. Even though you're impossible and demanding and you have ridiculous standards. Those ridiculous standards are why you're so successful. See. Impossible. They were interrupted by Junho's phone ringing. He glanced at the screen, his expression darkening. It's my father. I should take this. Of course. Junho stepped onto the balcony, and though Minji couldn't hear the conversation, she could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his free hand clenched into a fist. When he came back inside, he looked troubled. "Everything okay? My father wants to meet you. He's hosting a dinner party next week, and he's insisting I bring you." "That's good, right? Meeting the family. My father isn't like your father, Minji. He's calculating and manipulative, and he'll try to find your weaknesses and exploit them. Not because he's evil, but because that's how he operates. Every relationship is transactional to him." "Then why does he want to meet me?" "Because he knows I care about you, and he wants to assess whether you're an asset or a liability." The words stung, even though Minji knew they were true. "What do you think I am? You're the woman I love. But to him that won't matter. What will matter is whether you fit into his vision for the family, for the company, for the legacy he's building. And if I don't fit," Junho pulled her close, "then we deal with it together." The dinner party was held at the Kang family estate, a sprawling property on the outskirts of Seoul that screamed old money and carefully cultivated influence. Minji wore a simple black dress that Yoonji had helped her pick out, elegant but not showy, expensive enough to fit in but not so expensive that it looked like she was trying too hard. "You look beautiful," Junho said when he picked her up. "I look terrified." "That too. But mostly beautiful." The estate was filled with Seoul's elite, politicians and business leaders and socialites who moved through the space with practiced grace. Junho introduced Minji to dozens of people whose names she immediately forgot, each greeting polite but assessing, weighing her worth with every handshake. Finally, they reached Junho's father, Chairman Kang Tae-hyun, a man in his 70s with sharp eyes and a smile that never quite reached them. "So this is the woman who's captured my son's attention," he said, taking Minji's hand. "I've heard interesting things about you, Ms. Seo. It's an honor to meet you, Chairman Kang. My son tells me you're very talented, that you've already made significant contributions to Hanwoo Corporation. I've been fortunate to work on some exciting projects." "Fortunate?" he smiled. "And modest. That's refreshing." He gestured to the terrace. "Walk with me, Ms. Seo. Let's talk." Junho started to follow, but his father stopped him. "Alone, Junho. I'm not going to eat her." On the terrace, away from the party, Chairman Kang's pleasant demeanor shifted slightly. "My son has never brought a woman to meet me before," he said. "In fact, he's never shown serious interest in anyone. So your presence here tells me something important. You matter to him." "He matters to me too, sir." "I'm sure he does. But I need to understand what kind of relationship this is. Are you in love with my son, or are you in love with what my son represents?" The directness of the question caught Minji off guard. "I'm in love with Junho. The man, not his position." Easy to say. Harder to prove. He looked out over the manicured gardens. "My son is the heir to an empire worth billions. He will have responsibilities, expectations, pressures that you cannot possibly understand. Can you handle that? Or will you become a distraction that weakens him?" "I would never weaken him. Intentions don't matter. Results do." He turned to face her fully. "Here's what I know about you, Ms. Seo. You come from a modest background. Your father has been ill, requiring expensive treatment that you couldn't afford on your own. My son gave you money which you're still paying back. You're ambitious, hardworking and talented, but you're also vulnerable. And vulnerability can be exploited. Are you threatening me? I'm assessing you. There's a difference." He pulled out his phone, showing her a bank transfer confirmation. "This is a payment for 10 million won. Consider it a gift for your father's continued treatment. No strings attached. I don't want your money. It's not about want. It's about practical reality. Your father needs care. You need security. I can provide both, but only if you understand how things work in this world." "And how do they work?" Quid pro quo. You help Junho succeed, support his position in the company, don't become a scandal or a liability, and you'll be taken care of. But if you hurt him, if you damage his reputation or interfere with his responsibilities, then you'll discover that I protect what's mine. Junho isn't property. No. But he is my son, my heir, and my legacy. And I will do whatever necessary to ensure he fulfills his potential. Chairman Kang's smile returned, pleasant and cold. Now, shall we rejoin the party? People will wonder what we're discussing. Minji felt sick as they walked back inside. She found Junho immediately, pulled him aside. We need to leave. What did he say to you? Nothing specific. Everything specific. Can we please just go? They made their excuses and left. In the car, Minji told Junho about the conversation, about the money transfer she'd refused, about his father's barely veiled threats. I'm sorry, Junho said quietly. I should have warned you better. Would it have helped? Probably not. My father he's complicated. He believes love is a weakness, that emotions cloud judgment. He spent his entire life proving that calculation and strategy are all that matter. Do you believe that? I used to. Before I met you. He reached for her hand. Minji, whatever my father said, whatever he threatened, it doesn't change how I feel. You're not a transaction to me. You're not part of some corporate strategy. You're the person who makes me want to be better than my father, to build something different from what he built. But can anyone escape that kind of legacy? I don't know. But I want to try. They drove in silence for a while, Seoul's lights blurring past the windows. Your father offered me money, Minji said finally. 10 million won for my dad's treatment. He said it was a gift, but we both know it wasn't. It was a test. Or maybe a bribe. I'm not sure which is worse. You didn't take it. Of course not. But Junho, what happens when the tests get harder? When your father decides I'm not suitable, when he puts real pressure on us to break up. Then we fight. Together. I want to believe that. So believe it. But believing was harder than it should have been. Over the next weeks, subtle pressures began to appear. Minji's projects were reassigned without explanation. Meetings she was supposed to attend were suddenly cancelled or rescheduled. Colleagues who'd been friendly became distant. Nothing obvious enough to complain about, but death by 1,000 cuts, designed to make her doubt her position at the company. She said nothing to Junho, determined to prove she could handle the pressure. But it wore on her, eroding the confidence she'd built. Then Lee Miho reappeared. I heard you met the chairman, he said, cornering her in the lobby one morning. How did that go? It's none of your business. I'm trying to help you. Chairman Kang is destroying you slowly. The project reassignments, the isolation tactics, that's all he's doing. He's making sure everyone sees you as Junho's weakness, not an asset. Why do you care? Because despite everything I still care about you. And because I know what it's like to be on the wrong side of the Kang family. They crushed my father's business when I was a kid. That's why I left university, why I disappeared. I had to rebuild from nothing. Minji had never known this about Miho's past. I'm sorry that happened to you. Don't be sorry. Be smart. Get out before they destroy you too. He handed her a business card. I'm moving to a new company. Singapore-based, huge international presence. They're looking for senior strategists and I recommended you. The offer is yours if you want it. I'm not running away. It's not running. It's surviving. He looked at her with something like genuine concern. Minji, you're brilliant. You deserve better than to be collateral damage in Junho's family drama. Take the Singapore job. Start fresh. Build something that's yours, not something you're constantly having to defend. After he left, Minji stared at the business card. Miho was right about one thing: she was tired. Tired of fighting, tired of proving herself, tired of wondering when the next subtle attack would come. That night she told Junho everything. About Miho's offer, about the Singapore job, about her exhaustion. "If you want to go, I won't stop you," Junho said, his voice carefully neutral. "That's it. You won't fight for us. I'll fight for you to be happy. If that means leaving Korea, leaving this company, even leaving me, then that's what I'll support. What about what you want? What I want is irrelevant if it makes you miserable." He pulled her close. "Minji, I love you enough to let you go. But I also love you enough to ask you to stay, to weather this storm with me, to help me build something different from what my father built. The choice is yours." Minji buried her face against his chest, breathing in his familiar scent. "I don't want to leave you." "Then don't. But I also can't keep being undermined at every turn. Your father is making sure I fail, and eventually I will. And when I do, it will reflect badly on you too. So we change the game." Junho pulled back to look at her. "My father thinks love is a weakness. Let's prove him wrong. Let's show him that partnership is stronger than isolation, that trust is more valuable than manipulation." "How?" "By succeeding. By being so good at what we do that he can't dismiss you as a distraction. By making it clear that you're not going anywhere, and neither am I. That's easier said than done. Nothing worth having is easy." Minji made her decision that night. She would stay. She would fight. And she would prove to Chairman Kang and everyone else that she belonged in Junho's world, not because of him, but because of her own merit. The next morning, she walked into Chairman Kang's office without an appointment. "Ms. Seo," he said, not looking up from his computer. "To what do I owe this unexpected visit?" "I'm here to make a deal." That got his attention. He closed his laptop, studying her with those sharp, calculating eyes. "I'm listening. You think I'm a weakness in Junho's armor. I'm here to prove you wrong. Give me 6 months. No interference, no subtle sabotage, no pressure on colleagues to isolate me. Let me do my job. And if at the end of 6 months I haven't proven my value to Hanwoo Corporation independent of my relationship with your son, I'll walk away. Clean break, no drama. And if you do prove your value, then you accept that Junho and I are partners in business and in life. You stop trying to break us up." Chairman Kang smiled, the expression more genuine than she'd seen from him before. "You have spine, Ms. Seo. I'll give you that." He stood walking around the desk. "But you're asking me to bet against my own instincts. I've spent 40 years reading people, predicting their weaknesses. I know what you are, even if my son doesn't see it yet. And what am I? Someone who will eventually have to choose between love and ambition. And when that moment comes, you'll choose ambition. Everyone does. Then you have nothing to lose by accepting my deal. 6 months. Let's see if your instincts are right." He considered for a long moment. "Fine. 6 months. But Ms. Seo, understand this. I'm not your enemy. I'm simply a realist. And reality is that love, no matter how sincere, rarely survives the pressures of power and responsibility. I hope for my son's sake that I'm wrong about you. But I don't think I am." Minji left his office feeling both triumphant and terrified. She'd bought herself time, but she'd also made a promise she wasn't sure she could keep. The 6 months that followed tested every aspect of Minji's character. Chairman Kang kept his word. No more subtle interference, but he also didn't make things easy. He assigned her the most difficult clients, the tightest deadlines, the projects that others had failed at. Each one was designed to push her to her breaking point. But Minji didn't break. She assembled strong teams, delegated effectively, learned to ask for help when she needed it, a lesson Jung Seoyeon had never learned. She worked harder than she'd ever worked, but she also maintained boundaries, refusing to sacrifice her health or her relationship with Junho for the sake of proving a point. Junho was her anchor through it all. They had dinner together every night, a non-negotiable commitment no matter how busy work got. They shared their struggles, celebrated their victories, and slowly built the kind of partnership that neither had thought possible. "I got the Daewoo account," Minji told him one evening, 3 months into her challenge. The one 3 senior strategists failed to land. The very same. She couldn't hide her smile. "They said my approach was fresh and that I understood their brand better than anyone they'd worked with. Because you're brilliant. Because I didn't give up." She kissed him, even when it would have been easier to walk away. As the 6-month deadline approached, Minji had landed 4 major accounts, increased client retention by 30%, and mentored 3 junior employees who were now being promoted themselves. Her success was undeniable, documented in quarterly reports and client testimonials. On the day of her deadline, Chairman Kang called her to his office. "6 months," he said without preamble. "You've met your end of the bargain. Exceeded it, actually. Does that mean you'll honor yours?" "It means I was wrong about you. Not about the choice between love and ambition. That wasn't your challenge. You've proven you can have both, that they don't have to be mutually exclusive. So you accept my relationship with Junho? I accept that you're good for him. You make him better at his job, more balanced in his approach. You've also proven you're an asset to this company independent of him." He pulled out a contract. "Which is why I'm offering you a VP position. Senior Vice President of Strategic Development. It comes with a substantial salary increase, equity stake, and a seat at the executive table." Minji stared at the contract, barely able to process what she was reading. This is more than I expected. You earned it. But Ms. Seo understands something. This position means you'll be scrutinized even more carefully. Your relationship with Junho will be questioned. People will assume nepotism regardless of your qualifications. Can you handle that?" "Yes." "Good. Because my son needs someone strong beside him. And whether I like it or not, that person is you." It wasn't exactly a warm endorsement, but coming from Chairman Kang, it was as close as she'd get. That evening, Minji found Junho waiting at her apartment with champagne and roses. "How did you know?" she asked. "My father called me. He said, and I quote, 'Your woman is sharper than I gave her credit for. Don't screw this up.'" Minji laughed. "That's his version of approval. That's his version of respect. Which is worth more." Junho pulled her close. "I'm so proud of you. Everything you've accomplished, you did it yourself. I was just lucky enough to be there to watch. We did it together." "No, you did it. I was just your cheerleader." She kissed him, pouring 6 months of fear and doubt and ultimate triumph into that kiss. "I love you," she whispered against his lips. "I love you too. And Minji, I know we said we'd take things slow, but I don't want slow anymore. I want a life with you. A real life, not just dinners and work and stolen moments." "What are you saying?" He pulled back, reaching into his pocket to produce a small velvet box. "I'm saying marry me. Be my partner in everything, not just work. Build a life with me that's different from what our parents had, what we thought we had to settle for." Minji looked at the ring, a simple, elegant diamond that caught the light perfectly. "Your father will think we're moving too fast." "My father doesn't get a vote." Junho smiled. "But for what it's worth, he already told me he wouldn't object. Said something about how you're probably the only woman who could keep me in line." "He's not wrong about that. So is that a yes?" "That's a yes." They were married 3 months later in a small ceremony attended by close friends and family. Chairman Kang gave a speech that was surprisingly warm, noting that he'd learned something from watching Minji and Junho, that perhaps emotions weren't always a weakness, that love, when combined with mutual respect and shared purpose, could actually be a strength. Miho sent a congratulations card from Singapore. Inside he'd written, "I'm glad you proved me wrong. You deserve this happiness." Yoonji cried through the entire ceremony. Team leader Nam caught the bouquet and promptly announced her retirement to start a consulting firm. Life moved forward, evolving in ways none of them could have predicted. 5 years later, Minji sat in her VP office, reviewing proposals from new hires. One resume caught her attention. A young woman from Busan, brilliant but inexperienced, with a father recovering from cancer and a determination that reminded Minji of herself. "What do you think?" Junho asked, reading over her shoulder. He was chairman now, his father having finally stepped down to enjoy retirement with Minji's father, who'd become his unlikely friend through their shared love of classical music. "I think we should hire her," Minji said. "Give her a chance to prove herself. Because you see yourself in her. Because everyone deserves someone to believe in them." She turned to face her husband. "The way you believed in me. I didn't believe in you. I just saw what was already there. That's the same thing." Junho smiled, kissing her forehead. "Maybe it is." Outside the window, Seoul stretched out beneath them, full of people with their own stories, their own struggles, their own chances at happiness. Minji thought about the girl she'd been 6 years ago, desperate and afraid, clutching a worn portfolio and hoping for a miracle. She'd gotten her miracle. But more than that, she'd built it herself, with hard work and determination and the courage to trust when trust seemed impossible. The young woman from Busan would get her interview. And if she was half as determined as her resume suggested, she'd get her chance too. After all, everyone deserved a chance. That's what Junho had taught her. That's what she'd proven to Chairman Kang. And that's what she'd spend the rest of her career paying forward, one brilliant, desperate candidate at a time. The dragon wasn't so scary after all. Beneath the fire and the sharp edges, there was warmth, loyalty, and the capacity for love that transformed everything it touched. And Minji, who'd once been too afraid to trust that warmth, now basked in it every single day.